Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Greek House. My name is Christina Lucrezia. I'm editor-in-chief at Cointelegraph, one of the oldest and biggest publications dedicated to blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and decentralized world. I'm here with my amazing co-panelists, and I would love just to start, because I learned ancient Greek in the university, and their address was haire, hairete, and it means have joy. Enjoy. So please enjoy the panel, and this is for all of us here, and please enjoy this week. So as a way of introducing yourselves, I would love to ask you, because we are talking today about sustainable investments. Sustainable investments can be interpreted both as investments into sustainability or also investments that are sustainable. So what is more important in your career, and how do you deal with sustainability on your everyday work basis within your projects and your working activities? Let's start with men first. Mark.
You don't want me to start. It doesn't work. Yes, you don't want me to start mansplaining, right? Okay. Okay.
I think it's a pretty gender-balanced panel, right?
Okay. Well, I definitely thank you for making me feel so comfortable. Kalimera, it's a pleasure to be back at the Greek House. Really an honor. Mark Mueller-Eberstein, born in Germany, living near Seattle. I am in the crypto space for a couple of years. I run Codex DF, that's the accounting company for digital asset accounting. But you asked me about sustainability. I think it's ongoing learning. I have 4 kids, 3 of them are daughters. So I'm very passionate about improving myself, learning, and making sure that the next generations have those opportunities as well. So I think education is the cornerstone for all of us as societies, as individuals. And I think one of the things I've learned over the last years here with the Greek House is the focus of the Greek government on education of a population over the last years. And I think we can see this.
Over the last centuries.
What's that, 25 centuries, I think? Okay, yes. No, I think, but we can really see this in the startup world as well. There's a lot of interesting projects coming out of Greece. So with that, looking forward for the next conversations.
Thank you very much, Mark. Christine, you're working in a very exciting space. Please tell us more about the sustainability framework within the space missions.
So I literally work, yes, in space. I am surrounded by space explorers. So my name is Christina Korp. I have the Space for a Better World Foundation. And how I got into that is I used to manage Apollo 11 astronaut Buzz Aldrin, the first man to walk on the moon. So for 12 years, my whole life was dedicated to the legacy of the first moon landing. And because of that, I became the witness to the impact of what we are all benefiting from today. The technology that was developed for that, to learn how to go to the moon, is something that we're using everywhere we go. So in that, I began to realize, wow, maybe I have a responsibility here as the person who came from outside of space and has new eyes on space to try to help connect the outside world, who I realize knows very little about space and what's going on and how it could help solve the SDGs. You know, people think space is wasteful, and they don't realize that space is actually leading the way in many sustainability efforts. And so what has happened and what has led me to my new purpose is I also, was surrounded by a bunch of moonwalkers, a bunch of old guys who walked on the moon. And then I began to become very aware of the women too, though. The women pioneers, the first women who worked in space. And one of my partners in purpose, who's an astronaut, is here with us today, and she'll be getting up here after this panel. But we're very passionate about trying to raise awareness about the ways that space can help solve the world's biggest problems, and is already key in many of the things that are already going on. So the mission of Space for a Better World is called Connecting the Space Curious to the Space Serious. Because I was an entertainment person who fell into space, and most people are curious about space or have a fascination, but they don't understand what's going on or how they're already using space technology. Meanwhile, we are deep in space. And then going back to crypto and blockchain and all of that, people always ask me about it, and I'm cautious about it because it's a new Wild West. But most people I know in space are very invested in that world as well, because it is probably the future of finances. So I'm here, you know, as an advocate to try to get people to understand the opportunities that are here in space, and hopefully to help connect some of you and put some fresh eyes on what we do in space. So thank you.
Very interesting. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about how space missions can actually contribute to sustainability on the Earth. But first, Betsabe, you are representing here the Hedera Foundation, that is one of the largest players now in terms of gathering together crypto and blockchain actors for better causes. So how do you see the sustainability issues within your daily job, and with whom do you have to deal with on a daily basis?
Hi, everyone. Kalimera. My name is Betsabe Botaitis, and it's an honor to be here. So I have my fair love for Thessaloniki, and I spent some time there. So I'm super happy to be here. So my work really is about trust. And I really think that sustainability is highly correlated to trust. We need to, and when talking about investments, and Hedera is a blockchain layer 1 for those that don't know much about the crypto world, Web3. Hedera is the only enterprise blockchain. It is owned by enterprises, governed by enterprises, for enterprises. And our entire focus is to really bring trust to the ESG world in blockchain. And what I do, I mean, I'm the CFO of Hedera, and Hedera has a council members, and within our council members we have Boeing, Google, ServiceNow, Standard Bank, many other ones, UCL. And it's such an honor to see how these great companies are coming together to really build this trust infrastructure, immutable layer that really allow us to, an example is to really track credit offsets, carbon trading offsets. And as you know, that is a big issue because you can have carbon credits and those can be sold 10 times. So how do you really know that the one that you have is yours and it's not sold in other areas? So really, in terms of sustainability, and for me, sustainability and what I bring to Hedera every day is the basic foundation of the values. Why are we doing this? Is to ensure that there is a better future for our kids. As you said, I have a 7-year-old daughter, and everything that I do with a lot of passion is thinking about the future. How do we have a better financial system, a trusted government, a trusted investment? When I go to my wealth management or asset management, and I say, hey, I want to invest in ESG. Is it truly ESG or is it just marketing? So really understanding that basic of trust layer is what Hedera is about.
Thank you very much. Well, obviously saving the world should also be profitable. Otherwise, there would be no one left when another challenge will come. So which breakthrough technologies can actually help us build a more sustainable ecosystem for sustainable investments into sustainability? Mark, and I definitely want you to talk a bit more about blockchain. What is the role of blockchain in building up this trusted ecosystem?
So I think it's all about unlocking productivity in general. I don't want to get what you just said earlier. I think there's so much greenwashing going on. Knowing that we can trust the data is extremely important. And I think Hedera and other projects in this space can definitely play a key role there. Why I think blockchain especially is so important, if we look at human history, now I said Greek makes perfect sense here, we had 2 accounting revolutions in human history. 5,000 years ago, we had starting people writing ledgers that became the center, allows central government. We see states emerging. But it was really hard to manage those ledgers because you needed to trust the writers and have the opportunity to punish them if necessary, because there was no control mechanism until about 1500s. That's when an Italian monk developed double entry accounting. It allowed scale of the technology of ledgers from very few individuals to a larger group. And it gave us all of what we have today. finance systems, insurance systems, international trade, all of that is built on it. The challenge with double entry accounting, it is slow. And now we have triple entry accounting. The transaction is the receipt, is the ledger entry, all at the same time, all transparent, all auditable from anybody at any point in time. And while the first one maybe unlocked the first 0.5% of the economic potential, the next accounting revolution, the first 10%, who knows where we are right now? I mean, we see it around the world. The unbanked have access to technology. Farmers have ability to do crop insurance, for example, and be much more productive, much more protected for the families. I'm very excited about what we can see, what the potential of humanity is that we are unlocking now.
Blockchain is also about decentralization, so about diversity. And if we talk about sustainable investments, it's not only an opportunity for investors to track, to trace, to be transparent with what's going on, but also for those projects who want to attract investments, to have this visibility through new opportunities offered by blockchain. How do you see the dynamics, Betsabe, of these projects who search for investments and visibility within the space through blockchain, and how the Hedera Foundation is contributing to this cause? Because what I really see is that every time I see the Hedera Foundation in some event, there are more and more people around. So you've been doing an amazing job in actually bringing together those who need to be brought together. So what's the role of blockchain here?
I just want to make sure I understand the question before I answer. So it's trying to summarize. So the role of blockchain investing into sustainable projects?
We talk about investments as investors, but also as projects who search for investments. Blockchain has opened so many doors through ICOs, through tokenizations, through NFTs. So how do you see these dynamics being developed since Hedera was founded? And how do you see this being developed going forward?
Well, I think that really, I'm gonna go back to the industry, blockchain and Web3 as a general. We got a little bit of bad reputation sometimes. And we need to be careful with that because it is easy to think that a new idea can be immediately funded, and it's not always the case. I think that what Hedera has done exceptionally is a very good due diligence. And when and I will keep repeating trust, and I will keep repeating about due diligence, and really thinking that. I mean, we got bad reputation in Web3 because we have these lavish parties and a lot of investments. And you remember everyone in 2017 wanted to become millionaire with ICOs from one day to the next day. But really, Hedera really went live in 2019 and really started to have more transactions in 2020. It was this focus that we need to be very taking calculated risk in the ways that Hedera invests in the ecosystem. It's how do you grow at an ecosystem that help each other. So when I think about investments, is how one company helps the other company. And you're building this, well, I'm gonna use the circular economy, and thinking about also entries, double entries. How do you have this strong due diligence, trust, and circular economy? Everything comes together. We don't isolate one thing and we're gonna go for one thing. We make sure that we have all the elements within it. And also investing in people, bringing the right teams, focusing on the needs, really coming back to the fundamentals. What are the problems we are solving and why? What is the driven passion or the need that is fueling that desire for the entrepreneur to do it? I mean, if it's money, this is not for Hedera. But if it's really because you have an amazing idea and you really have a foundation of why you're doing it, and it's part of the ecosystem that is going to grow, this is what we're focusing on.
How is the crypto winter impacting the whole dynamics of the Hedera Foundation activities?
You know, when it started, I was skeptical, I have to say, because I'm from my background, I'm the CFO and thinking about finance over 25 years of just looking at trends and finance. It was not only crypto winter, it was a recession. It's a worldwide recession, and there are other macroeconomics and geopolitical environment factors that we need to consider. So in my mind, it's just not crypto winter, and it's truly worldwide, and it's affecting everyone, all businesses, all entities. I have been in blockchain since 2017. So I do remember the 2018 crypto winter was just crypto. It was isolated. But this is different. It's the entire world. How is it going? I think that crypto and Web3 is here to stay. We are very resilient. We are here to solve real problems and bring trust. And I think that it is still a few months to go, a couple of years perhaps. But it is being conservative, and it's been very strategic on risk and return calculations, and in a way conservative too, because we need to weather this storm. But I think that it has cleaned the industry, and it's really nice to see the bad actors has been identified. They're moving away, and many good actors are surfacing and to really shine. And that's what makes me incredibly proud to be part of the Hedera ecosystem, because especially now in Davos, so many people keep telling me, I haven't heard about Hedera, and suddenly in the last month, I hear about Hedera everywhere. And it's true, because we have been around, but we have been very conservative on governance and really making the right decisions and right investments. So good actors are surfing. So that I think that that's what crypto winter has done. It's cleaning the space.
Can I have one quick sentence? So people often forget that technology breakthroughs are not just linear. It goes up and down. Like when you talk about bubbles, the tulip bubble in the 1500s. Yes, of course, prices went up, prices went down, fortunes were made, fortunes were lost. But what people forget, the technology, the money that came in created the modern financial system, modern farming, really the infrastructure on which the Dutch built their global empire. One bubble, financing coming in, investing in many, many, many different technologies. And yes, blockchain is one of them, but I think space, if we can look at, I think this is a good opportunity to educate a little bit more about what happened with the space technology, what brought Apollo us today. And I think most people have still forgotten how important that was.
Yeah, well, if you know that the main motto of the crypto industry is to the moon. So I really would love your perspective on how exactly to the moon is happening within the space industry. What is we were talking about education, about due diligence. So what is the sustainability concept developed within the space industry? How do you do due diligence, and how space missions can actually help to increase sustainability on the Earth?
Ooh, I could talk about that all day. Okay. But I do want to go back to trust. You're talking about trust. I mean, so the first time I came to Davos was 2019. It was the 50th anniversary of the first moon landing. So I was coming here trying to get people to understand and to remember this really historic moment that the world joined together. Probably, arguably, the only time in human history where the world stopped, waited in anticipation, and then celebrated a human achievement for the whole entire world. Positive, not a tragedy, but a good one. So I was here and just trying to say to people, like, we need this reminder of this amazing thing that we did 50 years ago. And this has been brought up many times about how the Apollo spacecraft that landed on the moon had less computing power than your cell phone does. And this is true. And just look at what we did. So, you know, I'm always trying to remind people of that, because I wasn't from that generation, but I see what it did and how we're all, it's almost like I can see these connections, like literally these bubbles pop up over everything that's happening. Now, relating to blockchain and all of that, in 2020, when I came back to Davos, I felt like half of Davos was blockchain. All of a sudden, it was just swarming with blockchain people. And it felt like everyone was trying hard to just make money. and it didn't seem like there was as much impact, or people forgot about why we were here. And so I got really wary of the blockchain people, because I thought, okay, here's all these people who they don't care about doing good. They're just trying to find a way to make a quick buck. And within space, we have a lot of people involved in blockchain and many areas. As a matter of fact, I was just thinking about, you know, the winter. Like, we are in the middle of a moon metaverse project right now. So there's a company we're working with who has built the moon, the entire moon, in the metaverse. And so this is a new thing that we're doing, where all the Apollo landing sites are built, and there are hexes on the moon that people can buy. It's really a game, but I mean, it is kind of this interesting thing that's tied to blockchain and NFTs and all of that. And so, you know, we're very cautious, because especially since I work with astronauts, of going too deep into it, because there are so many things that make the trust worrisome, especially for a NASA astronaut to attach themselves to something like that. So we're all very aware of it, but we're still trying to learn about it too. And to be honest, in a way, I think the winter, you know, everything that's happened with FTX and all that stuff, it's bad, but it's also kind of good, because it's kind of forcing companies like yours to start coming out and showing, like, look, we can't like be just the wild west. We need some accountability. We need some traceability, some ways for people not to just think they're going to make a ton of money, and there's no consequences. Or, you know, I met a guy a couple months ago at one of my space events who said, "Oh, I did very well in blockchain in the last 5 years." I said, how are you doing? He's like, "I'm still doing pretty good. I just bought a plane cash." And I was like, huh, I wonder how long that's gonna last. You know? And so anyway, but going back to space, I mean, look, most people in the space world that we know are somehow involved in blockchain, because it is the future. It is going to be, you know, a digital way of doing transactions. I mean, doing transactions in space, going to the moon, going to Mars, you know, this is going to be the future. We're not going to be just using coins and, you know, pieces of paper. So it will evolve. And so everybody who's in space is aware and of what's going on. And of course, people like Elon Musk and all of these guys, you know, they all have their toes dipped in this. Now, going to those guys and thinking about sustainability and long term, I mean, the reason that we are here, me and my partner in purpose and the people that we're here, is because we're trying to draw attention to the possibilities. And even with the blockchain community, who may not realize, okay, so you want to do good, you want to have impact investing, space is a good place to do that. Because a lot of people think, oh, all these billionaires, you know, this billionaire space race, and they're totally distracted by the wrong thing, which is these guys they did not say, oh, I'm going to try to become the richest man in the world. They were trying to go to space. They were trying to develop things to go to space. They take big risks that pay off, and then they take the next risks, and then they take the next risk. And the motivation is to take energy production off-world, to take us and learn new things, and that drives technology and innovation, and the things that we learn when we go to space is all benefiting everything that we do on Earth. And so, you know, we're trying really hard to, here in Davos, is to draw attention to those opportunities. Because I was explaining, I was on a panel in 2020 here with a bunch of ministers from the Caspian region, all talking about, we're investing in futuristic technology. We're going to do the green, you know, future. And everything they mentioned on that panel was old space technology from 60 years ago. And so I was trying to say, look, just think, if you started looking at what's being developed now in space, and that's where, even in the blockchain world, you know, that's where there's a lot of money now. And so if I can help, and my partner in purpose and the people that we're with can help people say, okay, you want to save the world? You want to solve the SDGs? Let us help at least draw your attention to the opportunities that there are there in space.
This is all incredibly exciting, and you mentioned the word learn several times, and I think this is, in the end of the day, this is key, because if we do not know about what potential is offered by the technologies, we would never get there. Play to learn is one of those breakthrough technologies that, in my opinion, can definitely transform the way we approach sustainability, as well as all other very important challenges and issues, because this is the way we approach the new generation. The topic, the main theme of this WEF is connection, cooperation in a fragmented world. And I was thinking a lot about this, what is fragmentation means exactly. It's not only about rich people and poor people, that is the dichotomy that is discussed very broadly here in Davos, but also the generations gaps. So let's talk a little bit about this. You've been active in the education sector a lot. How do you see the younger generations interacting with technologies differently, and how we, the Davos people, the crypto people who have been already in the space for some time, use these technologies to educate and to bring this forward to the new generations?
Well, of course, all of us who have engaged with younger people, like middle-aged guys, we have plenty of those, but see how things have changed a lot, right? I mean, if I tell my kids I had to go to the library to figure something out and they just Google it, it's intellectually even hard for them to understand how this works. But I want to get back to the comment you meant about fragmentation. So fragmentation on one side, there's another word called decentralization. And going back to the space, I mean, we have seen, especially over the last 12 months, how things have changed. The satellites that are out there that are allowing communication, we are just here in the Greek house, the Ukraine house is just around the corner. We have seen what modern technology, drone technology, but also, again, having the insights, the pictures that are there, to making sure that awareness and information is available globally. And I think all of this hasn't been even remotely possible 10, 15 years ago. And I think the combination of government-funded research, education, and then private entrepreneurial profit-oriented enterprises have really changed the world. That is not only impacting on a business side, but really on an education and, of course, and how we live and how we interact and what we know about the world.
If I could pipe in about education. So, I mean, I do a lot of education projects too, and with Nicole and the Space for Art Foundation. So I'm going to be doing some events with my friend Oana as well in Romania coming up, and we always do an outreach day in partnership with the university. And what we're trying to do is we get them to do space art and to try to get them to think about what does space mean to them. And often a kid will then draw a picture of Earth. You know, it's not always just about the moon or the stars, but the point is to get them thinking about it. But then while we have them there, we're trying to showcase opportunities for education. And when I say education, I don't just mean going to college. I mean about different kinds of ways that you can work in space or have a pathway to a job that maybe is going to use the skills that you have naturally, artists or people who are good with their hands, or, you know, people who maybe are not good at science and technology, engineering, and math. There are lots of other, you know, areas. And that's one thing with space. We always say, every job you need on Earth, you need in space. So I bring this up because, you know, that's one big thing I think that gets lost a lot, too, is that everybody has to go to college. Not everybody has to go to college. Or there's different ways to learn. There's different pathways to learn a skill. And that's something that I want to try to get people back to. But technology, like you're saying, I have an 8-year-old son and an 11-year-old daughter. And their world is different with how they communicate with technology. And like you say, there was a video about kids not knowing how to use a rotary phone, you know, and they're just looking at it and trying to figure out, how does this thing work, you know? So our kids, you know, we have to adapt too about what these kids, the way that their brains work, the way that they're using technology, and, you know, and thinking about one of the big ones I think Nicole had said to me was like finances. Like, we have desperately got to teach young people how finances work in this digital world too. Because my kids, they play Roblox, with, you know, this game, and then they want to buy all this stuff in the metaverse, which is nothing. And I'm trying to teach them a value, like real money, and something that they have, you know. So that's even an education for us as parents, you know. That's a new thing too. So anyway.
Can you believe that my dad already asked me for my private key of my wallet? Can you give me your private key, Mom? Like, nope. I want to take a little different take on education. I do think it's very important to educate the youngest, but there's a lot of money in the world. And when we count about the money, how everyone is is investing, we haven't even touched the surface into having a real impact. And there are billions going right to left. And that's part of the fragmentation. But let's think about what is really the process of money. So you get into your 40s, you feel like you start making some money, you have a little bit to invest because early on you are working, investing, education, and so on. So let's say in the 40s. So then you're busy with family work, you go to an asset management or wealth management person, and now you say, hey, I heard about crypto. What is that? Can you help me invest? In reality, those wealth management and asset management perhaps don't know crypto. They don't understand blockchain. And I think that education really needs to start from it has to be a holistic solution across everything. And the same way that public accountants, we need to have credits every year. Lawyers need to have continuous education. In the United States, you have to have Series 7, Series 63, and everything to be able to give advice. Why is not the same requirements when someone says, oh yeah, invest 10% of your wealth in crypto? Yeah. We need to really start coming together and say, yes, people need to learn. And it's not only the youngest one, but especially those that are giving advice, because there is so much appetite. And if we start coming together and start thinking about, okay, in Latin America, I work with many family offices, and they are investing between 5 to 10% into Web3. And they really want to have legacy. When you get at this level that you have money to invest on a private bank, what is your number goal? It's legacy. And legacy is not only about generations to have wealth, but is knowing that generations have a safe environment. But I haven't seen that regulation. And there's very, very little technology that is giving that education for wealth management. So I think that it is the private sector that needs to have that education, are the regulators that needs to have the education. Everyone that is having this conversation almost have to pass a test, have a certification to be able to have this, the conversation.
That's a good point. There was just one of the politicians, I don't know if he's a congressman or a senator, just went back to take classes about AI, which is so, and he's like 70 years old, and it's perfect because how could all these people make the decisions about what happens with the laws, make decisions when they don't even understand the technology or this new world, you know? So that's a great point, because most people with finances or people who invest their money in normal investment don't understand it at all. And the people who are advising them don't understand it at all. So, yeah.
But moreover, I think people who understand are still getting lost because there is so much information, so much going on. So my last question before we ask the audience for the input as well, it's like personal advice. How do you use technology in your daily lives in order to like not being overwhelmed with everything that is going on and to focus on real impact in your life, not only, you know, on a world or a space scale?
My absolute favorite feature on my smartphones, switch off all notifications. Yeah, just being mindful of how we use technology when we want to engage and use it to unlock potential, but not to be a slave to the technology.
Yeah, I mean, so I actually turn off most of my notifications because otherwise I'd just be bombarded all day. And so I do have to check it a lot, unfortunately. That means I do have to check my phone a lot, you know. And to be honest, like doing social media and putting messaging out there, oh my gosh, it's so time consuming, you know. But it is also necessary because that's how I get lots of allies too. So, I try really hard to be very mindful when I'm putting things out there too, especially like on LinkedIn. I'm trying to get people to understand what I am trying to do, and then hopefully attracting the right people who could be potential partners or allies or could make a difference in the way that they think. So, we can't get away from it. Actually, I have a friend who doesn't do social media at all right there. And it's interesting because she knows nothing that's going on. And then I'll say, I mean, in general, but in some ways she's probably happier than we are because she's not so distracted by these devices and all this noise too, So I don't know. I think it's finding a balance, and it's always something you're trying to adjust to.
Do you have any tips?
Yeah. I think that everything is about making decision. make the decision to focus on one thing at a time and be present. I mean, so much distraction, and you can do everything in technology. But my advice, for example, when people ask me, when I go to conference, it's overwhelming. Of course, especially when you go to blockchain conference, you cannot learn everything. It's so much. Focus on one thing at a time. Learn it, become almost an expert if you want to, and then move to the next one. You cannot get everything. I mean, I can tell you my comfort zone is finance. I'm one of those geeky person. I love doing models. So doing token economics relaxes me. But that's when I'm focusing. And then when I want to learn about what is outside the world, I dedicate myself an hour, and that's it. But really, you need to be able, here, fragmentation is actually good, having the silos and be able to make the decision and be very routine about it and conscious about it. Otherwise, it's crazy. It could be anyone crazy, but no, you don't need to know it all. And you need to feel comfortable with knowing you don't know it all. And then when you are in this type of events like Davos, just be curious, ask questions. And the best way to learn is just having a very friendly conversation with someone.
I'm glad you all mentioned this. I totally agree, and I think that quality should definitely prevail over, quality over quantity. And sometimes just turning off your computer and going outside and just looking at the nature around is having much more impact on the sustainability than writing emails. Okay, we have 5 minutes for Q&A. I would love to have some feedback from the audience, your thoughts and questions.
And this is for Mark. Because of the historical references you made along the way, and I think it speaks across everything that was discussed today, is first, and I'm not historically keyed in to how these things transpired over time. Is there like a single reference or someplace I could go to understand the history of how we've gotten to where we are, you know, just even in the economic world in general, that would allow me to better to better understand where we are today, to kind of, you know, even in the space industry, it's like we're going through this whole thing of new space and things that are going on, and there's this kind of gap in the understanding of the lessons that were already learned. And those are like the jewels out there, how we take advantage of that to, you know, better place ourselves now and for the future.
So there are, of course, a lot of really brilliant people out there that are looking at pieces and trying to drill down into them. But really putting the high-level picture on and looking across the board and what it does, I think one of my favorite books is *Sapiens*. I think it really explains human history, and it looks at things like what's money. It explains it relatively simply. And of course, making it simple is extremely hard. So I've been a big fan, and I think it really shows how things come together.
I would like to suggest something. Okay. So there is this theory that we are going through the fourth industrial revolution. Mm-hmm. So just Googling about this fourth industrial revolution, there is a lot of really good information and articles that universities have put out there about what does it mean to be living in the fourth industrial revolution.
I think the best way to learn about decentralized space and blockchain and Bitcoin is to write Bitcoin's white paper, written by Satoshi Nakamoto. It's just 8 pages, but it's actually it gives the vision of what this alternative decentralized space can be, and also Bitcoin standard if you want to delve into it. Can you give us some recommended reading about space?
Oh gosh, well, yes, I can actually. Nicole Stott's book, which is, I'm serious. I mean, because there are many things, but because there's lots of astronaut biographies. And I will say, when I was with Buzz Aldrin, there's a book called Mission to Mars that I helped him with, which is his vision of how we would get to Mars, why we would go to Mars, which is hard for a lot of people to wrap their head around. But what I love about Nicole's book, it's called Back to Earth, What Life in Space Taught Me About Our Home Planet and Our Mission to Protect It. And so it's not a biography, but it is her take of having this perspective of having been in orbit, looking back at our beautiful planet, what we've learned from space, but what can we do now to try to do better on Earth? And so, and she guides you to some things that are going on and people that she knows. And I think that's a valuable thing from a not too technical perspective, because that's something that a lot of times people in space and tech and lots of worlds are trying to use too many terms that people don't understand, trying to get people to explain it in simple terms to where they can relate to it. So it's a great book. I highly recommend it. Yeah, I mean, that would be the number one, and not just because she's my favorite astronaut. So.
Number two?
I'm sorry?
And number two?
Number two?
I think you already had it in mind, no?
Well, no. I mean, it's funny because I'm in this book, which is a Buzz Aldrin book called, what is it called now? See, I'm tired. I need some coffee. Life Lessons from a Man Who Walked Down the Moon. It's a book that I'm in. It's No Dream Is Too High, it's called. And it's just even like giving this perspective of, because people think astronauts, they'll say this to me, astronauts are the elite human beings. They're the most intelligent people on Earth. And I'm like, nah, they're just as flawed as the rest of us. But they're willing to take risks. They're willing to they try over and over. They don't give up. They're curious and they explore. And I think that, like you were saying, with learning, and those are all the qualities you still need in everything, in finance, in life in general. So I think that's one thing that's a good thing to learn from astronauts. And so in that book, 13 Lessons is just a simple way again. So.
Amazing, thank you very much. And well, we are in the Greek house. Honestly, I think that we can find a lot of answers in the books that were written not even as books yet. Sometimes they were declamated, and the Greek philosophy and literature is just an amazing ocean of ideas, and it's not by chance that a lot of blockchain projects bear names in Greek, and well, crypto itself is a Greek word. So thank you very much, the Greek House, for hosting us today, and thank you everyone for being here, and enjoy. Hi, Rete.
So, is she moderating?
Let's have a coffee break and then.
Okay.